Hey everyone, and welcome to Down to a Science. Today we're going to talk about particle theory, kinetic molecular theory, and the atomic theory. First, let's look at the atomic theory. This theory states that all matter is made up of tiny little particles called atoms. Like this wax cube, for example. This is a solid piece of wax. But if I take these metal scissors and start shaving off little pieces of wax, that's like taking little pieces of atoms off of it. Bigger pieces, smaller pieces. So the atomic theory states that everything we see that's matter is made up of tiny little atoms, little molecules. Let's look at the kinetic molecular theory. The kinetic molecular theory states that when particles are moving faster, they tend to react more. The slower they move, the less they react, also known as the rate of reaction. Let's look at the particle theory. Particle theory states that if you have little particles and you increase that surface area, they have a tendency to react more. The smaller the surface area, the less they tend to react. Now, let's look at some examples. Let's have my assistant come over. This is something you should definitely not try at home. A little more, a little more. That's good. So here we have methyl alcohol. We've poured it into a giant beaker, or a water jug. What we've done is we've closed off one end, and now we're shaking it up. The reason why we're shaking it is because the kinetic molecular theory states the faster particles move, the faster they react. And at the same time, you get a workout. Once we make those molecules move nice and fast, and we have hardly any liquid left in the beaker, and your hand is about to pop off the top, we can put it down. Now, oh, you put it down kind of quick. Now let's see what happens. So, as we see the kinetic molecular theory, we see that the particles in the jug are moving nice and fast. I added a little bit of energy in the form of a match, and we had an exothermic reaction, which you would have seen in the last episode. Now let's take a look at particle theory. If we increase the surface area of particles, we can get them to react. Here, I have some lycopodium spores. Let me just pour a little bit out here on the countertop. As you can see, lycopodium spores are yellow. If I take a match and try to light them, they light, but then they go out. We have a solution. And that solution is the particle theory. Let's take those same lycopodium spores and put them into my trusted funnel. If I increase the surface area of these lycopodium spores, they should react much better. As you can see, the lycopodium spores on the desk went out quickly, but as I increase the surface area of the lycopodium spores, they can light up a room. Let's take a look at something else. It's not just chemistry that works. Household ingredients can work as well. Let's take a look at flour, for instance. Although if I poured this out onto the counter, there wouldn't be any fire. But if I increase the surface area of the flour enough, let's try to light up a room. As you can see, the flour and the lycopodium spores, when increased surface area occurs, they start to catch on fire. Remember, when you're baking a cake, don't increase the surface area of your flour or your oven will explode. Next, let's have a look at kinetic molecular theory and particle theory all wound up into one. I'd ask my trusty assistant to come over, put on her trusty glove. Okay, so while she heats up the wax that's inside of the test tube, we can see that it's going to start to melt. So the particles that are inside the wax are starting to get excited. As they get excited, they want to move around a lot more. So we're going to make it a liquid. Once we form that wax into a liquid, we're going to wait till it boils. Wax boils at quite a high temperature, not just like a regular candle wax, because you wouldn't want your candles to boil. So we have to get it to the boiling point, and then we'll see the kinetic molecular theory and the particle theory in action. Now that we have the wax boiling, we're almost at point of excitement. Now we can see them really working. And now she's going to stick it into the water. As you can see, when we take the excited molecules of wax and rapidly cool them down, they expand. The particle theory says if we expand them enough, they can release their energy. And as we saw here, regular candle wax has a lot of energy. So, just to wrap everything up in a nice little box and give it to you as a present, we looked at the atomic theory, the particle theory, and the kinetic molecular theory. The kinetic molecular theory states that particles want to move really quickly will react really quickly. Moving slowly, then they won't react very quickly at all. The atomic theory states that all matter is made of tiny little particles that we call atoms. The particle theory, it states that if we increase the surface area of our particles, then they can actually release all of the energy that they have stored inside. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Get some of my hair, it was really warm. And I heard it coming down too, I was like, oh man, let's just keep going.
That was